it was that bacon wrapped in that first, but shit, it fell off, nigga. So I made a dip, nigga, sideways, nigga. Look at that shit. That's that good crust. Let me see what that other side look like then, big dog. Sheesh, pretty meat. I'm gonna give you the after too. I had juicy too. Man.
My brother, but you changed, boy, you dead wrong. Boy, I die for my nigga, that's that shit that I stand on. Talking to my mama, I was crying through that jail phone. Ay, why you think I run it up, nigga? I don't get no fuck, I'm in the club, I'm cutting up. Ay, baby on my dick, I tell that little bitch fuck it up. Ay, I was broken in a motherfucker, now I'm getting butt. Hey, baby.
The Unforgivable Podcast. This is your host, Cake, aka Cam B. The King has arrived. Go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and notifications bell. And if you're tuning in, let me go ahead and get a guh from my legion. All right, first of all, we're going to jump right into it. One of the worst feelings I've ever felt in my life is losing. I think one of the first times that I really lost was back in Pee Wee football. And I remember, obviously, you know, it was rough as a kid. You know, you get them kids, it's just, they banging a little harder than most kids. And I was grinding. I was one of them kids that always hit back. They'd hit me first, but I'd always hit back. And after a while, I didn't want, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to keep having to hit them like that. So I stopped playing Pee Wee football. My mom took me out for a little bit, and then I moved with my uncle, and he put me right back in football. And I was, you know, making strides in that. I was getting better every single day. Then we get to high school, and he puts me in wrestling my freshman year of high school. And I thought that shit was so fucking rough, man. After that first year, I didn't want to do it no more. I kept taking L after L after L. Those who went to high school with me, they know I wasn't that fucking good at wrestling, at amateur wrestling. Even though I love pro wrestling, I just couldn't make the similarities between pro and amateur wrestling. So when I did it, I really wasn't taking it serious. I was going out there just throwing the match because I didn't feel like it was something that I was really into. So fast forward to my senior year, we get to the state championship game and we come up just a little short against Artesia. And that really ate at me. That really did. I hated it. It made my blood boil. But I knew I gave everything I had, so I couldn't do much about it. Football is a team sport. Wrestling is an individual sport. It hurts even more when you lose in wrestling because it's like, damn, I lost. Somebody pinned my shoulders down to the mat for 3 seconds, and I lost. And I kind of gave up on that. I'm not gonna lie, like it hurt. And that's when a lot of depression and anxiety started to build up because I didn't want to lose. So I kind of kept myself dormant. I didn't want to put myself out there if I was just gonna lose. And that set me up for a lot of failure in my life. And I'm here to tell you that all it takes is a lot more hard work than you think you're doing. If you really, truly want to win at an area or an aspect in your life, all you got to do is work a little harder. Actually do the research. Sometimes there's more power in reading than it is actually doing the action of what you're trying to succeed in. So like here, I'm looking at the origin of wrestling. So kind of where it originates from, right? So wrestling as a whole, basically the objective is to pin your opponent's shoulders to the mat for about 3 seconds. Depending on what type of wrestling match it is, about 3 seconds, that's how long it takes to come to a decision of who wins, right? And it says that, I'm looking at this website called Britannica. And it's saying that the origin dates as far back as 3000 BC in the Babylonian and Egypt days, right? That's what they would do for sport and as hobbies. They would wrestle, and whoever would win via either submission or their shoulders being pinned to the ground that person would win, right? Or, yeah, I hope I said that right. And then in the 13th century, the Mongolians came over and adopted that wrestling technique. And that's what they kind of use as their training regimen. And then also later on in the 13th century, sumo wrestling originated. God, I'm terrible at saying these words right now. But sumo wrestling kind of originated in Japanese culture, and that kind of spun off into judo, jiu-jitsu, a multitude of different martial arts. And then in the first English match was actually recorded in London, early 13th century. It was called Cornish wrestling. And there's different videos that you can see on YouTube. Like I was looking at this guy. Let me see. Let me go back to it here. Yeah, it's called the Cornish Wrestling Centenary back in 1926. These are some of the first English wrestling matches ever recorded. And it's really, these guys are just, they form a huge circle. I don't even know if the circle has to be this large, but there's one referee and these two big ass dudes are wrestling each other down to the ground. And I mean, they don't look like super model like dudes, you know what I'm saying? Like these guys are just down there getting nitty gritty. I mean, God, look at this dude. Soon I'll have like a video and where you can see exactly what I'm saying. But for now, you just got to look at the video on YouTube. Search it up. It's Cornish wrestling. Back in 1926, these guys were getting after it. And then actually, a couple of notable kings actually were wrestlers. King Henry VIII was a wrestler. King Charles II was one. The French King Francis I they were all patrons of wrestling. And then even our great president Abraham Lincoln was a wrestler. So I mean, wrestling has always been a part of our history from like the beginning of time. And then ever since the 18th century and up, it's been a sport enjoyed by many, 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 many people, including myself. And, a lot of people get it, pro wrestling didn't really become a lot, like, really mainstream until the formation of...
It's the shirt.
Oh, I got this video playing. It wasn't really mainstream until the formation of WWF started and things like that. Actually, let me go ahead and search it up before I start throwing out different unknown facts. But while I'm here, the first ever African-American pro wrestler was Bobo Brazil, formerly known as Houston Harris. Yeah, he was fighting the likes of Gas House Gilbert, Crusher Blackwell, Killer Cross, Stan Stasiak. Yeah, his favorite finisher move was like the coconut headbutt or something like that. I mean, you got to watch this dude wrestle. It was one of those things where like you can tell that there was some racial stereotype. Whereas like he wanted to kind of break out of his shell and be more than what he was, but at the end of the day, that's what was over. And over is basically like a term used for like the crowd is very much into him. So his act was definitely getting over on the crowd, and he was doing his thing. I watched a couple of matches, man, and he was actually pretty good. Let's see. Formation of... This is why I need another person here to search all this stuff up while I'm talking. Let me see. Formation of the WWF. Because I wanted to see when that started. No. It's like a different WWF. Let's see. World Wrestling Federation. (1953) in Massachusetts, the town of Yarmouth, Massachusetts. I believe that's what it is. Let me see. I really gotta look it up. Yeah, Yarmouth, Massachusetts. It was founded by Vince McMahon. Everybody knows that. I don't know why it was so hard for me to like kind of get to that level. But anyways, wrestling has always been a part of our culture for years and years and years. And pro wrestling, albeit, in order to get over a lot of characters, entertainment is definitely the hugest part of it. Because without that entertainment aspect, I don't think people would really know much about wrestling. You know, it's the same thing with, you know, recording. Like, people didn't really know how crazy and funny kids are until the first video of somebody posting to, you know, I think, was it MySpace or Facebook? I don't even know what the first video was posted on of some kid acting a goddamn fool. But it's like, pro wrestling now and how it was back then, it's always steadily evolving. And that brings me to my next point, which is AEW. This show really does, it's a rival. AEW, All Elite Wrestling, is a rival to WWE, for those who don't know. WWE is more sports entertainment, but they're actually transitioning back over to pro wrestling. So for a pro wrestling fan like myself, it's going to be good competition, and I'm going to have fun no matter what show I go to or watch. Doesn't matter. Anywho, All Elite Wrestling was founded by Tony Khan, Nick and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, a lot of other great wrestlers that kind of were surfing around the independent scene. And, you know, for a young fan like myself who grew up around The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, growing into John Cena, Edge, Randy Orton, you know, Batista, Rey Mysterio, a lot of cats like that. I kind of was falling out of love with wrestling, like most of y'all, right? Like, as soon as you find out, oh, it's, you know, they use fake blood. Oh, they're pulling their punches. Oh, I'd never let somebody grab me like that. I was starting to grow out of that, but I was one of those kids that was like, it's still real to me, damn it. So, like, watching it, I was starting to fall out of love with it just watching WWE, because I could see that a lot of stuff was being repetitive. It was super repetitive, and it wasn't really to my liking. So when AEW was created and they started putting on shows every single week, and they were actually good wrestling matches, like a lot of storytelling, right? Because you have to get invested in who you're watching. You can't just watch two random people wrestling and like, okay, well, some people can do that, but a lot of people can't. So ergo, the entertainment portion of it, where you got to get your character over. As a wrestler in that industry, you got to get your character over with the crowd, which is, like I said, having the crowd invested in your character. That's how you get paid the big bucks. It's how your merchandise sells, and that's how it all works, right? When you are in that ring, that's, I believe, a Walter or Gunther now, he calls it the sacred mat, where people get in there and you are really wrestling. You are taking it back to the pre-13, back in the 3000 BC area, back when the Babylonians and Egyptians were competing as sport to see who was the alpha male back in that day. And it's evolved now into a squared circle, and these guys are giving it their all. They're constantly battling each other out, trying to make each other submit. And it's like the biggest game of Uncle that you can really play. And it's interesting to a guy like me who, like, you know, I've always thought things like street fighting, stuff like that, like, it's cool for the video, but I mean, it's all out of control. Like, that's something that'll never pique my interest. Like, if you want to be a street fighter, by all means, you can be a street fighter. That's cool. That's just not for me, because it's messy. It's messy. It's unorganized. And to be honest with you, it's unattractive to me. But in a controlled environment like UFC, boxing, pro wrestling, things like that, that's what catches my eye. Because I enjoy the art. It's an art. Fighting is an art. Cutting hair is an art. Rapping, singing, painting, drawing, those are art. These are all forms of art that is meant to catch somebody's eye. And it just so happens to be combat, hand-to-hand sports catches my eye. And I enjoy breaking it down. I enjoy watching stuff like this on a regular basis. It's what, you know, gets me grinding, gets me moving, because at the end of the day, hell, I don't know what could happen for me in the future. If I'm able to become a wrestler at some point, that's something that I've been working on for me. You know, trying to go to the gym, trying to eat right, and even going to different wrestling gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms, things like that. These are things that I'm creating for me in order to live out my dreams. You know, when we're young, we kind of dream of things that we kind of grow into a habit of, oh, that's just too big for me. Fuck that. Ain't nothing too big for me. Nothing. And nothing's too big for any of us. Because at the end of the day, we all have the victory. We can go out and do anything we want. We have to put our minds to it. Whole time, the devil trying us, quote unquote trying us, is the whole time it's just laziness and lethargicity. I still can't find a good word for that. But it's like, why are we sitting here being complacent? There's a whole world out there that God put for us to go out and explore. So why not explore it? Next thing I'm going to get into, these NFL preseason games. First week of the preseason is over with now, so I'm going to go through a couple of these scores and give my little summary of what I found. So that Hall of Fame game with the Jaguars and Raiders won 27-11. It's pretty snooze fest, but it was the first game of the preseason. It was kind of expected. Later on that week, or the next week after that, we had the Giants and Patriots play. The Giants won 23-21 off a last-second field goal. Great game. Really entertaining for a preseason game, and it made me even more invested in the first couple of weeks of the regular season. Man, all these games that I've watched for the preseason, all I kept thinking about was it's going to look so much crisp. It's going to look so much cleaner once the starters are in there. Like games that I didn't think that were going to be, you know, all that entertaining. Like, was it the Bills and the Colts? The Bills and the Colts played, and I think the Colts won. Hold on, where is it at? Bear with me. Yeah, the Bills won actually, 27-24. Hell of a nail biter. Like, a lot of these games are just kind of testing out people's rosters and seeing what they got, what they don't got. So a lot of it's not going to show exactly what the finished product looks like. Next week, we got a list of amazing games, amazing, great games. But let me go down the rest of these games. So obviously the Giants won. I just told you the Bills won. The Ravens beat the Titans 23-10, which Malik Willis, that dude's going to be a dog in the league. If he can really sit in the pocket and make those wide open throws that Coach Mike Vrabel says that were there, I think he could be an issue. I mean, he's a real weapon in the league. People are kind of already comparing him to a thicker Lamar Jackson, which Lamar Jackson is kind of getting thick him damn so. Not like that, but you know, these African American quarterbacks are really starting to spread their wings out. And it makes a guy like me happy. You know, I'm an African-American male, and I'm just overjoyed by our African-American play. With that being said, it's not surprising. It's expected. Next game, we got the Browns and Jaguars. The Browns won 24-13 in a kind of sloppy match. I mean, the Browns, after acquiring Deshaun Watson, I get it. It's his first game back in over a year. Listen, depending on how the Browns season goes, it's kind of deserved. With that being said, we'll see what happens. Then the Falcons and Lions played. The Falcons win 27-23. The Jets beat the Eagles 24-21. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Bengals 36-23. That was a hell of a game. Great field goals made by that the Bengals kicker. Wasn't McPherson. Dude's a beast, man. Dude's a beast. Then the game of the week for me, the Panthers versus the Commanders. Seeing Carson Wentz on the quarterback and Baker Mayfield on the quarterback for the Panthers. I mean, it was a really. It's hard to call that because they only got I think they only had like one possession each. Or I think Carson Wentz might have gotten two, but Carson Wentz's possession wasn't really wasn't nearly as effective. Baker Mayfield I'll say this. From last year and this year, third downs were something that Baker Mayfield struggled on tremendously while he was with the Browns. This year, he went 3 for 4 and ended off with the field goal, which is great for a guy who just came off of a torn labrum. For those who don't know what a labrum is, it's a tendon in your shoulder that it restricts you, I believe, from going forward to back. With that being said, it was in his non-throwing shoulder. However, have you ever tried to throw a ball with a torn labrum? Probably not. So it's one of those things where he's recovering and also rebuilding and, just striding from it. So I look forward to seeing what the boy Baker does. Next game, we got the 49ers and Packers, with the Niners over the Packers 28-21. And then we got the Buccaneers losing, actually, to the Miami Dolphins 24-26. Wow, what a good game. Yeah, that was a really good game. Down to the wire, huh? Then the Steelers went over the Seahawks 32-25. Listen, that boy Kenny Pickett, that dude he's an animal. I can see him already. I can see the greatness peeking off of him. And I solely think that boy Mike Tomlin, dude's a beast. Listen, I'm not the biggest Steelers fan. I really don't enjoy the Steelers, but I really do love myself a well-coached Mike Tomlin team. And they are really going to be I think they'll be another team. If they can use Kenny Pickett in the right ways, which he plays quarterback, right? What other way can there be? But I think Kenny Pickett can really pick up where Big Ben left off. I think that's a huge, huge problem for the AFC North down there. Then the Chiefs. Did I already say the Chiefs lost? Yeah, I think the Chiefs lost to the Bears 19-14. I don't know what happened there. But anyways, it's a preseason game. Who cares, right? Just looking at film. The Cowboys got drugged through the mud by the Broncos 17-10. I think that the Cowboys are another team that I feel where if the starters were all playing, that game would have looked differently. It would have looked differently. And I feel like Dak Prescott can make a lot of those throws Cooper Rush didn't make. I feel like he can make a lot of those plays that many quarterbacks would struggle to do. I think Dak Prescott can definitely overcome that adversity. And then the next game, we got the Texans over the Saints 17-13. This is why the preseason is so hard to judge, because you see teams like the Texans beating the Saints, and it's like, how does that happen? But it's because the Saints aren't playing most of their starters. A lot of their starters are veteran guys who don't need to play. As where the Texans, all of their guys are playing for a starting position because they're bottom of the barrel guys. With that being said, they can all run circles around me, lift more than I can, and got more mental fortitude to go out there and play this great game than I do. So, hats off to them. And in the next game, actually today, the games today, you got the Rams over the Chargers 29-22 in what was a great game. And then the Raiders over the Vikings in an amazing game. It came down to the last possession where I thought a fumble was going to swing back into the Vikings' momentum, but I guess they did. That didn't come to fruition. After a long week of work, I can only watch the highlights. I'm sure a lot of people can attest to that same motion. Next week we got a lot of great games. I don't know. I think I'm gonna just save the NFL game review for whenever the regular season starts. But y'all let me know how y'all feel about this. This is something new that I kind of been putting up together. I enjoy how I'm doing this podcasting now, just because I can express more of myself to you guys. It just feels like this is it. I don't know. Over these last couple of weeks, I'm really trying to nail down how I want me to sound. It's one of those things where no matter how many times you hear your voice over a mic or something like that, like it just sounds weird. And then now I'm like modifying how I go about my podcast. Like here today, I have my laptop in front of me. I'm bringing to you facts, stuff like that. that I don't have to keep up in my head and like having to go through my notes over and over and over again, trying to figure out what to say next. I'm driving myself crazy like that. But with that being said, this is something that I enjoy. So I'm finna get right back onto this thing, man, and we finna ride to the moon, baby. But the biggest thing that I want people to take from this is to be yourself. Be yourself. Don't subject yourself to anything lesser than what God has prepared for you. You have your own path and your own story. For years, ever since my uncle passed away on my 18th birthday, I was really kind of dead inside. I had to overcome so much adversity. And I'm not saying that my adversity was any worse than anybody else's adversity. We all have our own stories. We all have our own perspectives. And we are entitled to our own opinions. Not saying that all of our opinions matter, but we're entitled to our own thoughts and actions. Same thing that we are responsible for our own actions, our own thoughts, our own words. Okay? I felt like the only thing that I could do was confide in myself. And it tore me apart. As an African American man, it tore me apart because I understood that I am an African American man. And if I were to flip out like a lot of lighter shades of people were to react, I would be put down like a gorilla at the zoo. All because I'm acting how I want to act completely. Whenever something frustrates me or makes me upset, I have to be able to learn that I can't act in a certain type of way because it would endanger not only me, not only my loved ones right then and there, but my entire family's legacy. How would it sound for somebody to hear that I was locked up for doing something such as vandalism or manslaughter? All because some guy at the club called me out. It's not worth it. It's not. There's so many other things that we can wrap our life around other than just having fun. Of course, we can have fun, but we can have fun in more productive ways. Get out of your mind. Get out of your head. What's the point of it? I understand if you can't make yourself laugh, who else is going to make you laugh? I get that. Believe me, I get that. I've been doing that for years. But when it comes to living life, waking up and not knowing what you're waking up for, find it. I truly believe that our purpose as humans is to leave a legacy, but also teach a legacy. I'm going to say that again. We're supposed to leave a legacy, but also teach a legacy. To me, that means that although we are having all these kids and people that are uneducated, we have these people here. It's our job as educated adults, not humans, educated adults, to teach our kids what's right and wrong so they won't have the harsh time that we had. It's super imperative that we teach our young because history has a funny way of repeating itself. And if you understand what I'm saying, that should scare you just a little bit. And you know what I mean. With that being said, that concludes our episode today. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, again, if you are tuning in, go ahead and give me a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notifications bell to hear more. And go ahead and give me a guh in the comment section. I want to shout out my boy MoolieDaFoolie, my boy AMIRROO. Really still, they out there putting in work. They're grinding. They're some of the most hardworking individuals that I know. No cap. I mean, I know a lot of hardworking people. These are two individuals that I know they're always putting out some type of music. They're always digging deeper into their own characters in order to express themselves even more. And that's something that inspires me. One thing that my uncle always did was anywhere he went, he inspired many other people. Which, that brings me to the thing where when he passed away, there was enough people there to fill up a church. And a lot of us had no idea that he had inspired and touched that many people spiritually and, you know, as a friend. A lot of people confided in him and trusted him. And he did motivate and inspire literally thousands of people. And that's where I come in. I always looked up to him as a role model. And I was with him most of the time. And I want to do better than he did. I want to be able to inspire not only thousands, but I want to be able to inspire millions with just my voice and my words and my actions. A lot of people didn't think I would make it past that car accident when I got hit by a truck. A lot of people didn't think I would make it past the car accident that flipped me and my uncle over. A lot of people didn't think I would make it past when I dropped out of football and dropped out of school and was out on my own. A lot of people didn't think I would make it past the adversity that I have been. And hell, I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't think I would make it. But God helped me out of everything. He listened to every prayer that I had, whether I said it or I didn't. He was always listening. And all he kept telling me was keep going. All my uncle kept telling me spiritually in my head was keep going. The light is at the end of the tunnel. And I'm here to tell you all, in the famous words of my uncle, it'll get greater later. I love y'all. Remember, this podcast is all about sharing and caring, red hot takes and debates, and most of all, loving all. And with that being said, I think that's it. God, I can't remember if there's anything else. Yeah, no, I think that's it. Yeah. Peace.
We about to bring some fire tonight.